In the automotive world, tuning companies hold a special place in many people's hearts. And in my heart, the most important tuning company is that of Cosworth. The main reason I know them, and probably you know them, is because of their legendary partnership with Ford. Now, in today's video, I want to explore a bit of that history and also tell you how it has affected this, the Ford Focus ST170. This section is going to be about the history of Cosworth, but not the complete history. I would like to do a video later about the whole history of Cosworth, but in this short segment I just want to focus on the relationship between Cosworth and Ford. In 1950, Northampton, England, two men by the name of Mike Coston and Keith Duckworth were working for Lotus as engineers. Now, these two men would go on to form the company Cosworth. However, they needed financial backing. So they approached Lotus's then manager and founder Colin Chapman, and in agreement for financial backing, they agreed that Lotus could pick any one of Cosworth's engines to use in their cars. What is important to my story is a pre-existing relationship that Lotus had with Ford, who would often provide them with some small engines to use in their range of vehicles. Through this relationship, Cosworth was able to get an engine that they used in the Ford Angular. This engine was pretty small and only produced about 39 horsepower. And when it was given to the team at Cosworth, everyone was surprised to find out that they'd managed to make this little engine produce a whopping 75 horsepower. This was impressive considering it was the late 50s. This engine was so successful it was used in the legendary Lotus 7, and that car is still made in various forms to this day. In 1966, Ford invested £100,000 into Cosworth for the two to begin racing. Ford and Cosworth officially partnered up on their first road car, that being the Ford Escort RS 1600, and later in the RS 2000, both of which are hugely successful rally cars, which people still competitively drive to this day. One of the most unique and standout moments of Ford and Cosworth's relationship was when they made the DVF. The DVF was an engine, a naturally aspirated 3-litre V8. Some of you may recognize this name, as it is of course the most successful Formula 1 engine in history. The DVF won 155 World Championship races, 12 drivers' titles and 10 constructors' titles between the years of 1967 all the way up to 1983. However, of course, Cosworth and Ford collaborated to make some of the best road cars we've ever seen. We had the Ford Escort RS 1600, later the RS 2000. In 1985, they created the Ford Sierra Cosworth RS. This road-going car had 225 horsepower, whereas the racing variants got about 500 horsepower. They were a dominant force in touring cars from 1987 all the way up to 1992. In 1984, they also made the engine for the Ford RS 200, which is a terrifying car even when it's standing still. This engine produced 440 horsepower at 8,000 RPM, and of course this car was a homologation special for the Group B Rally Sport. In 1983, the Escort RS Cosworth release, another instant classic, but was also a homologation car, this time for Group A rally racing. Now, I should probably introduce you to the vehicle we have here today. This, of course, is a Ford Focus. Now, this model here is an ST170. However, you could also find this in more standard variants that would have an automatic gearbox and could come as a sedan or a station wagon or even a 5-door hatchback.
Of course, here we have a 3-door hatchback, which is a cooler variant because it's technically a coupe. Now, a little bit about this car. As mentioned, this is an ST170. Now, what does that mean? ST stands for Sports Technology, and 170, of course, refers to the horsepower it makes. Now, of course, one of the most unique things about this vehicle is its 6-speed manual gearbox. This was the only 6-speed manual gearbox that you would find fitted to the Ford Focus. Standard variants could come in a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual. Now, this gearbox was made by a German-based company called Geartrack, and it's pretty bloody good.
Now, of course, the engine that we can see here isn't the standard Z-Tech R that you find in your standard Focus. This one was tuned up by Cosworth to 171 horsepower. The redline was increased to 7,200 RPM. Through such upgrades as variable valve timing. Also, it has a 4-branch exhaust and dual-stage inlet manifold. These are all very Cosworth features. It's also a good time for me to mention that this car comes with half leather Recaro seats and the optional sunroof, and I'm always a fan of sunroofs, particularly if I can stick my big head through it. So, thankfully, the owner's been kind enough to let me have a go. So, what are my thoughts on the way this car drives? Hi, Editor Matt here. I just realised that a lot of this footage wasn't great, so I'm just going to voice over it and I can put some fancy drone footage on. My thoughts on the way that the car looks is that it's a pretty ordinary looking car, and if you're an enthusiast like myself, you can tell that there are very special things about it. Most notably with this car is the silver wheels. The gearbox, when you're driving, is really good. It's a nice lightweight feel, and you can feel as if you can change gears as fast as lightning. The engine that has been tuned up by Cosworth is fantastic. You can really feel that as it's moving about. It's got a great build-up sound, and you really enjoy just winding the motor up, even from slower speeds. The handling on this is brilliant. If I had to describe it, I'd say that I'd worry if I was looking for the limits, but when you're operating within the car's comfort zone, it's a really fun handling car, and you really can't fault it. It drives as if it's like a cheeky little brother, a bit like myself. It's playful in the sense that it's not going to go for a track day and try to beat everything like an M3 will. It's more just a car you want to drive home, but have a little bit of fun with. But of course it is a hatchback, so if you do just want to drive it through town just to do the shopping and to pick your mum up and to drop the kids off to school, you can easily do that. So that about wraps up my thoughts on the Ford Focus ST170. It has a very unique history, being one of the last cars that was developed between Ford and Cosworth. But most importantly, what do you all think? Did you enjoy the video? If so, let me know down below and feel free to leave a comment. But until next time, thank you for watching.